guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today on Moneyball MLS edition, we're going to go through this guy here on screen, Cucho Hernandez of Columbus Crew. And if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel and also like the video. So the guy we're talking about today is going to be Cucho Hernandez, of course, like I said before, of Columbus Crew, L5 of 82, L15 of 73, and L40 of 70. He's sitting at about just under £70 at the £67 mark at the moment, as you can see here, roughly in about Ethereum. Plays as a striker at Columbus Crew, and as you can see here, his scores are pretty much phenomenal. And because of those scores, that is the very reason why he is rated first in forwards and fifth overall on the platform. So I'm going to try my best to find you guys some cheaper alternatives, even slightly cheaper or way less cheaper. So let's just crack into it and see what the first player is. And that first player is going to be one of his teammates, actually, of Diego Rossi. Diego Rossi currently sitting at L5 of 74, L15 of 67, and L40 of 53, which is, again, lovely indeed. £42 as of time of recording. Again, showing you the 3-day average and ETH price if you're worried about that. It's about 100 to 130 cheaper than Cucho Hernandez, also in the rare market, and currently sitting 10th overall for forwards. If we look at his scores so far, he joined Columbus Crew from Fenerbahce around August of 2023, and yeah, pretty much from this point onwards and done really well, so we can check that out now. So yeah, as you can see here, from game week 399 is when he had moved, or game week 395 he had moved to Columbus Crew from Fenerbahce, like I said, and just ever since then he's been pulling up some really good, phenomenal scores, and also as a solid player to watch for Columbus Crew as well. If we narrow it down a bit more so you can just see his scores for Columbus Crew, that's where it is at. So it's really good scores. A lot of lovely light to dark greens in there. A peak score, as you can see here, with 96, 91, which is also really good. And the 14 appearances he had with the 2 off the bench, 5 goals and 5 assists with 2 penalty kicks, 1 as well. So yeah, 12, quick maths, in 14 games, essentially, even with just 2 of those coming off the bench. So if we look at Rossi's overall AA scoring as well from the last 14 to 16 games, he's hitting 14.4. And if we take away his sub appearances, which is starting appearances, he's hitting it at 15.9. Again, 10 goal contributions there, and also the 2 penalty kicks, 1 as well. So the combination between Cucho and Diego is going to be so deadly, I think, this season. Columbus obviously won the MLS in total last season, and I think they're going to give it a fair good shout again this season, if not go to the back end of the tournament. And yeah, I think he's going to do really well. So for £42 in comparison to the 65.70 you're going to be paying for Cucho, it's a small savings, but again, it's a saving nonetheless. And even also, like I said, in rare, you're saving about 100 to 130. And yeah, I think it's a really solid shout of someone of Diego Rossi's quality. And the next player I've got here for you is going to be Giacomakis. I think I pronounced that well. L5 of 67, L15 of 56, and L40 of 52. Sitting only at £16.85 at the moment, so almost like a third or a quarter of the price of Cucho Hernandez. Even again, a third of the price, roughly, for the rare price also. And the Greek international being Atlanta. Atlanta aren't too bad. I think they didn't do as well as they wanted to probably last season. But nonetheless, he in the last 29 appearances, that with 10 appearances off of the bench, he's got himself 23 goal contributions within that time. If he were just to go off his starting appearances, right, as opposed to obviously the bench, off the bench appearances, he's still hitting 19 goals, 19 goal contributions in total over the 29 games. That accompanied with 4.8 of AA over the last 29 games is okay. Obviously you want a bit higher, you probably want at least like 8 to 10 at least to sort of push you into the 80s quite comfortably. But yeah, not too bad at all, I don't think. But if you're looking more for a like semi-cheap premium player, I think Giacomakis is going to be really good for you. At $16.85, he's about a third to a quarter of the price of someone like Cucho Hernandez, and pretty much half the price of Rossi as well. And yeah, for putting up decent scores like this, I think they should do better. Atlanta seem to have held their proper stars. Also with Almeida as well, looks like he's staying as well. I'm not sure if he's going to be staying for the whole season, but he's staying for the start at least. And overall, I don't think he is too bad of a player. Obviously, a decent enough striker, hitting those 17 goals in the 29 games, even with Atlanta not doing the best from what you can see here. Draws, a couple of wins every now and again, a few losses in a row there. So they weren't in the best of form last season. So with Giacomakis being 29, has a contract till December 31st, 2026 as well. So there for a good couple of years again still. I feel like as long as Atlanta get a bit better and they hold on to the players like Almeida or Thiago Almeida, I think he's going to do really well this season. Now I have here Hugo Kuipers originally of Gent, and he's just recently moved to Chicago Fire, obviously of the MLS. Wasn't in very good form when he left Gent from this season, as you can see from his L5 and L15 of 33 and 44 respectively. But with you can see with his L40 of 56, he had to have some sort of flair back in the day, and I'll show you that with his scores. So £13.62, so just under £14, with that again the floor price of ETH at the time of recording, and that of the rare pricing as well. The striker, as I said, has moved now to Chicago Fire, who have quite a good couple of players. Well, I say couple of players, I can only really think at the top of my head someone like Shaqiri, obviously formerly of Stoke and Liverpool, who does all right every now and again, is their main sort of attacking flair when it comes up to attacking. And obviously with Hugo here, I think is going to help a lot more. Yes, it's going to be a bit more. Yes, it's going to be.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Of a risk, but I think going from the Belgium league to the MLS is still going down. So yeah, I think at just £14 at the moment isn't too bad at all. But now the Belgium, like you see here from his before scores, this is what he was doing this season. Probably you can see here from the 407, 409 mark really. But from last season, obviously he was doing phenomenally well. I think we all know that. So 41 appearances, 24 goals, 5 assists and 2 penalty kicks won. And if we get rid of his DMPs, because that's mainly for the time where he was sort of rumoured to be going and leaving Gent, 40 appearances with 2 off the bench, 24 goals, 5 assists and 2 penalties won, which is 31 overall, basically decisive scoring, so which is really good over over 40 games. And to put into context what he's been like over the last 3 months, he's only had 8 games, 2 off the bench, and he's only scored 2 goals with 1 assist. So in comparison to what he was before, like I said before, back in last season, everybody knew who he was. His rare and limiteds were through the roof in pricing, and he's just obviously he's probably not been very happy this season. Probably been edging for a move, and hence why I think he's probably gone to somewhere like Chicago Fire. So hopefully he does really well there. It is a bit of a risk. He's not MLS proven, but he is proven in leagues that I believe are deemed a bit higher in stature. Yeah, I don't think it's too bad for somebody, like I said, of his quality. We know what he can bring. I'm a bit skeptical about going to Chicago Fire. I wish it was like an Orlando or Cincinnati or a Columbus Crew, but unfortunately he has gone to Chicago Fire. I say unfortunately, I don't know what they're going to be like, and I haven't seen who they've recruited so far this season, bar Hugo Kuipers. But apart from that, I think the Belgium should do really well this season. I think at least getting anywhere between 10 to 15 goals, I think would be quite a reasonable and good start to his debut season in the MLS. Next up, we have Klaus of St. Louis City. Obviously they had the start of their first ever debut season in the MLS last season, which they did really, really well. L5 of 36, L15 of 43, and L40 of 51. Again, just over £12 at the moment, and you can see there the floor price in ETH over the last 3 days. I don't think it's too bad at all. Even his rare is nice as well. Now, unfortunately, the majority of last season was ridden with a hamstring injury, which he just couldn't get over. As you can see here, was doing really well at the start of their debut season, and then picked up that unfortunate injury and was out during that period of time. Had a couple of sub appearances again, started to get first team again, and then I think he did really well. And in which case I think St. Louis sort of dropped off a little bit towards the end, but nonetheless I think 16 appearances with 9 goals and 2 assists. That accompanied with the bench, obviously, is 21 overall. I think they're pretty respectable scores. I think you've got to remember, obviously, from this point onwards, he was injured for a long time, started to come back into fruition a bit again, and unfortunately, it was near the back end of the season, probably the last 10 game weeks of the season. But yeah, I don't think it's too bad. 8 goals, 10 assists in 16 games. So yeah, I don't think it's too bad at all for someone like this. But the Brazilian went out on loan from Hoffenheim to Saint-Truiden and also Standard Liège of Belgium. So again, very similar to Hugo Kuipers beforehand, obviously coming from the Belgium league to, I think I would say, respectively, a lesser league of, or lesser standards, I would say, from the MLS. So again, could be a bit of a risk, but then again, I think it's not much of a risk because he did score goals last season. We saw this from the start of the MLS season last season. He's had a long time now with the MLS break to get himself fully fit and ready again for the season. And if he kicks off like half the games for St. Louis, I think he can be up there with one of the top goal scorers in the league. So, but we'll have to see how that goes. It is a bit of a risk, like I said. There's no guarantees in any of these players that I recommend to you guys in this list. So make sure you do your own research. But again, £12 and then you've got to take in consideration Cucho Hernandez was the £70 mark. Obviously, he's nearly like six times less of what Cucho was as well. So yeah, not too bad, I don't think, for Klaus, the Brazilian, for St. Louis City. And now the next player I have for you guys is going to be Teemu Pukki. Obviously, we know him from his time at Norwich, and he did play for Minnesota for the majority of last season. Also, L5 of 46, L15 of 54, with an L40 of 47. Again, quite standard, quite good right there. £7.63, only £76 as of time of recording for his rare. Looks like he was averaging around the £52 mark, which is even better, I think. I like Minnesota. I think they're a bit of an up and down team, but I think they have a lot of attacking prowess with the likes of obviously like Pukki and also Reynoso in the midfield as well, who is probably one of the best midfielders in the league. And yeah, £7.63, not too bad. Minnesota aren't too bad as a team, probably mid-table. Again, plays for Finland, obviously, and I don't know many Finnish strikers that could finish. But anyway, we'll get into it. But yeah, from his season for Minnesota, he had 18 appearances starting, and that was 10 goals with 2 assists with 1 off the bench as well. So again, wasn't too bad, and it's hard to find someone that is in direct comparison to someone like Cucho. Cucho had a phenomenal season last season, but I'm giving you more or less these players that I feel like can at least get somewhere close to him every couple of few weeks maybe, or yeah, every now and again. So, but yeah, I don't think he's too bad at all. Like I said, with him being linked obviously with Reynoso also, as you can see, he scored nice cheeky 4 goals there against LA Galaxy at home, which got him the 100, which is really, really nice indeed. Also, what you've got to take in mind as well, Eric Ramsey, who is being linked with the head coach role of Minnesota United. He's currently the set piece coach at Manchester United, and I think again this is going to be a really good coup for someone like Minnesota, considering you've got Pukki, who's a very deft finisher and good fox in the box almost as well. So I think he's going to be there in the right place at the right time. Think one step ahead of his defenders as well. Of his opponents, of course, and I think he's going to be a real beneficiary of that. So only time will tell. Like I said, at £7.63 at the moment is so much cheaper than obviously someone of Cucho Hernandez, but I really like the look of this one. So pairing him up with Reynoso, you can get those two together and still have change left over from instead of someone like I said, Cucho. Next up, I have Brian White of Vancouver Whitecaps, a 28-year-old striker. I think he's really, really good for £5. 46 L5, L15 of 57, and L40 of 54. So if we look at his scores, I think in regards to, you've got to take in mind that he plays for Vancouver, not Cincinnati, LA Galaxy, and things or clubs of that sort of stature. But he plays obviously for Vancouver, who I would probably say, not in regards to like for like, but they're close in regards to like a mid-table position with the likes of Minnesota United, like I spoke before about Pukki. So yeah, I don't think it's too bad for someone who's pulling up these sort of scores for that. And as you can see here, in his 37 starts with 5 sub appearances, 19 goals, 5 assists with 2 penalties won during that time. So 26 decisive actions over 37 or 42 games, depending if you obviously want to add the sub appearances in there. I think the scores are really good, and I think it's really solid for someone who's only a fiver at the moment. I'm sure Vancouver Whitecaps going going to do better this season. At home to Charlotte as well. So I think, was it Dean Smith, the ex-Villa manager, I believe is there now as well. So it might be a bit of a off start, but I think he can pull up some really good scores. And again, we're trying to, compare this as best we can to someone like Cucho, and I think Cucho is going to be again really difficult because he is number one as a number one forward in the whole of Sorare. But again, for the cheap price, if you're looking for cheap alternatives for cheaper strikers, and you're on a real budget here, and you still want to maybe be amongst the maybe top 50, top 100s, or potentially if you're lucky enough for a podium, I think players that I'm recommending aren't too far-fetched to go for right there. But again, with Brian White, for only being, again, like I said, and reiterating, £5, that is the point of this series if you are new to it. So check out the other ones, guys. I'm sure I'll leave a link in that corner, more like. Just like I said, £5, £90 in rares. This is just showing you don't need the absolute premium of premium, which is people like your Cucho Hernandez's. And yeah, for £5, I think, yes, you have to be somewhat lucky or choose strategically where and when you want these players to start. Like you would want them at home too, like a Charlotte would be really good, or like at home to an LA Galaxy. You wouldn't play them away, obviously, to like a Los Angeles or a Cincinnati or something like that. So yeah, just got to put your mind to it a bit. But this is why I'm showcasing these sort of players to you guys. But that's going to be Brian White of Vancouver Whitecaps. And the final player I have for you guys, and the cheapest one on the list, is going to be Alan Pulido of Sporting Kansas City. L5 of 53, L15 of 54, L40 of 52. Again, very consistent and decent scores for those sort of averages. £4.60 as a time recording, and there again is your price for ETH. And even at rare, I think it just is average 3-day average is really nice at £45.57. Currently is a floor price because people are getting giddy and excited and ready for the MLS season, which is basically this weekend. And if we look at his scores again, really nice scores, can hit those peaks every so and so. You've got to be somewhat lucky and have probably up to probably 2 goals or a goal and assist in the game, two lots of decisive actions. But 31 games started, 14 goals with 4 assists, so 18 and 31 is a goal every second game, and I think that's not too bad, again, for the price of just under £5. And Sporting Kansas City, again, a bit of a mixed bag. They had like a pretty torrid time at the start of the season, you can see here, losing loads in a row, then winning a couple, losing, drawing. And near towards the end of the season, they had a nice little run there, which he had helped quite significantly in, having the four decisive actions in those 5 games, which is really nice indeed. And yeah, I think the scores he puts up and the price, I think is really, really nice. And yeah, I think he's really good, decent value for just under £5. And even his rare at just under 60, I think you're getting a really solid striker here. Mexican striker tend to do, well, not all the time, but tend to do quite well in the MLS. And yeah, I don't think it's too bad. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of Moneyball MLS edition for Cucho Hernandez. If you have any other suggestions, leave the comments underneath the video. And if not, just like the video for me, please, and subscribe to the channel if you are new here. But that is everything from me, guys. I'll see you next time. Peace out.